perseverantes in dies valeamus regnum Christi efficiamus promovere per Dominum nostrum, Iesum Christum, filium tuum, qui tecum vivere et regna, in unitate Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. I can't read this, but I'm the one who wrote it.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming. I'm so glad that so many of you were able to come today. I'm so happy too that I had enough battery power in my wheelchair to make it across the lake. So this banner is from Fatima, and that one over there is from Fatima. La Familia Medina, right over here. They went to Fatima a couple of years ago. This is their statue. They brought her back from Portugal. She's beautiful. So we have the Feast of Our Lady of Fatima today, May the 13th, the first time Our Lady appeared to those three children. There they are on the banner. The oldest was 10, and all the way down to 6. So the 1917. The Pope had been praying for 9 days for an end to the First World War. And on the 9th day, she appears down in Portugal, in the middle of nowhere. It would be like Our Lady appearing in Scurry, just outside of Crandall. There's a golf course there. So anyway, she was in the middle of nowhere. And Our Lady appeared there, and she appeared in the place called the Cove of Peace, or Peaceful Cove. And she identified herself as Our Lady of Peace. So these three children would be the ones chosen by her to spread the message of Fatima. Now, I've got to tell you, there are some really big problems in the world today. Problems against peace. Last Sunday, President Trump talked to Pakistan and India and said, we don't want war. They're both nuclear equipped countries. They have about the same amount of nuclear weapons. China is behind Pakistan, and the United States is behind India. And they're about to have a nuclear war. On Sunday, Mother's Day, President Trump told them both, we don't want war. He said, do you want war or do you want trade with us? They both said, we want trade. Now, let's just make this all political, right? We just make it all political and just say, how dare President Trump on Mother's Day arrange a peace between two warring countries that are neighbors. Well, then you throw in Israel and Iran. Looks like there's some progress since Sunday on that. Then you've got Russia and Ukraine. Those are just the three big ones. But how many other places are set to go off, if you will? So I'd like to talk about history, but especially about recent history. Now, it was in 2010 that they started the traditional Latin Mass at the present location, modern day, right next to the Waffle House, right? So, Father Philip Wolf is the only priest who was starting that parish, who's still alive today and is still a priest. So, Father Wolf has done a tremendous service to everyone here, but the majority of you are never, ever, ever going to take advantage of it. I'm just gonna, like the Johnny Carson show, Karnak, or Prescott, I'm gonna tell you what's in the future. You're not going to look at the series that Father Wolf did, and never in the series does he say, hi, my name is Father Philip Wolf, and I'm with the Fraternity of St. Peter, and da-da-da. He's never going to tell you that. But what he does, and it's really hard to tell Father Wolf anything about Our Lady of Fatima that he doesn't already know. You know the water that you are getting over here in the little bottles? I called Father Wolf on December 10th, 2019. And I said, you've been using this book. This is the old Roman ritual, right? The old Roman ritual. I said, you've been using this book for 20 years as an exorcist. He would never tell you he was an exorcist. But I'm not him, so I can talk about it. So I said, you've been using this book for 20 years. What's your favorite blessing? Isn't that a weird question? Of course, it came from me. And Father Wolf, faster than that, he said, the blessing of holy water in honor of the Blessed Virgin Mary and Saint Torelli. And it's water, it's holy water that you're supposed to drink. And it says in here that it's by a brief dated December 16, 1628. So I went to Father Guadagnoli at St. Monica's and Father Wade Bass. Father Wade Bass had not yet been a priest for a whole year. And I told Father Guadagnoli, I just had this conversation with Father Wolf. I said, we're going to have a miracle on December 16th. And what do you mean? And I told them what I just told you. And they looked at me. The only thing they didn't do was like this. I was off by 5 hours. On December 17th, a man who didn't know what was wrong with him, he started drinking the St. Torelli water, started blessing St. Torelli water, left, right, and center. He woke up on December 17th at 5 o'clock in the morning, passed a very large kidney stone, recovered it and gave it to his doctor. At 3 o'clock that day, he was supposed to have an MRI. And then a week later, he was supposed to go to the doctor and have a scope with the urologist. He canceled both of those appointments and probably saved $5,000, a lot of pain and embarrassment, right? So, now think about it too. December 10th is the feast of Our Lady of, yeah, that's right, everybody say it together. Not important. It's just the Holy Family, Our Lady of Loretto. Oh, that's a small one, right? It's a small one. So, what was the first thing that happened in Catholic churches after the COVID in March of 2020? The first thing it took away was the holy water. And so, December 10th, 2019, Father Wolf says this blessing. And it's holy water that you drink. Now, when you think of holy water that you drink, you think of Lourdes water, right? So it was, I think it was in March. Saint Torelli is really Blessed Torelli of Poppy, P-O-P-P-I. But everybody calls him Saint Torelli. And he lived and died about the same time as Saint Francis of Assisi. So I called Father, I think it was March. I need to look up the date. It was the feast day of Blessed Torelli of Poppy. So I called up Father Wolf and I said, yeah, today's his feast day. He didn't know. And I said, yeah, like St. Francis of Assisi, a lot of times when you see St. Francis of Assisi, right next to him you see a wolf, because it was a wolf that was terrorizing a city. And he blessed the wolf and made him stop it. Well, St. Torelli was in his cave, and a mother brought in her baby who had been killed by the wolf. And she put the baby down at his feet, and St. Torelli prayed over the baby, and the baby came back to life. And so when you see St. Torelli, he's always pictured in stained glass windows like St. Francis is with a wolf. And I told Father Wolf, I said, yeah, and I got this blessing of St. Torelli water from a wolf, Father Wolf. So a couple of days ago, Father Wolf, on the series is called Our Lady of Revelation. Nina will send you the link, which you will notice and you'll never look at. I'm just predicting the future. Just predicting the future. You're not going to do it, So I sent Father Wolf something from Gloria.tv. It's a website like the Drudge Report. Usually the things on there are pretty good. So where Our Lady appeared to the three children on this day in 1917, the bishop there saw people coming to the middle of nowhere. And when people come to the middle of nowhere, they say things like, "I'm thirsty, can I have some water?" So right where Our Lady was appearing, the bishop had some men dig a well. Dig a well. All the farmers around there were saying, "What are you, crazy? There's no water there." And the bishop ordered a well to be dug, and guess what they found? Lots of water. And the farmers couldn't believe it. And he had two other wells dug right next to them because there were so many people coming. And the farmers laughed again, and guess what they found? More water. So when they started building that huge church in Fatima, where those wells were, they put a statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And that statue is still there. And they put this building at the base, and around all sides of the building, they put 15 different faucets all around the base of the Sacred Heart. So the people who came to Fatima could drink the water. And they said the water was sweet water. The water was sweet water. And I sent that to Father Wolf. Father Wolf has been there how many times? I don't know, a lot of times. Guess what's not there today? The faucets. That's because nobody's ever thirsty anymore. No. Okay, there's a reason for telling you this story in this order. What has happened is this. What I'm doing here is what a lot of people in charge in the 1920s and 30s and 40s and after that, they were closing the book on Fatima. You're thinking, well, how are you going to do that? Everybody liked going to Fatima, and there were miraculous cures with the water of Fatima. And now you can't get that in Fatima. Everybody wanted it, that's why we stopped doing it. It's not there. And you hear about things like this regarding the 30th anniversary. So this is May 13th, 1917. If you add 30 years to that, you come to May 13th, 1947. If you take away a month from the 30th anniversary, you come to April the 12th, 1947. In Rome, the place where St. Paul, the apostle, was killed. Now, St. Paul, the apostle, was a Roman citizen, so they would not nail him to a cross. So instead, they cut off his head. And they put him on this hill in Rome, and they cut off his head, and the people who were there said that the head of St. Paul bounced once, and twice, and 3 times. And every time the head bounced, this is the year 67 AD, every time the head touched the ground, a spring came up. So that would be 3. This is in Rome. This is in Rome. This is not Portugal, where Fatima is. This is in Rome. So, on April the 12th, 1947, just a month away from being the 30th anniversary of this, pretty much, the Catholic Church had done this to Fatima. You're thinking to yourself, Well, I never heard of that. Today, while y'all were eating, I was going around to the different tables, and I was showing you a picture of a priest. He was at Fatima the year after John Paul II was nearly killed. John Paul II was in the St. Peter's Plaza on May 13, 1981. That was a year before I entered the seminary. So he's in St. Peter's Plaza, and he's a young pope, just turned 60, and he had just taken the baby of these Americans, and had blessed the baby, handed the baby back. You couldn't turn around in that plaza. There were so many people, and a professional assassin was closer to the Pope than I am to him holding up the banner. And he fired bullets. A professional assassin, Mohammed Ali Ashka, which, if you want to say it in Turkish, it's Mehmet Ali Ashka. And John Paul II explained it. The reason why he wasn't killed was that one finger pulled the trigger, another finger guided the bullets. And when John Paul II was recovering in the hospital in Rome, the first thing he did was said, bring me the envelope, bring me the file on Fatima. Remember the old commercial? I could have had a V8, right? I could have read this before I ended up in the hospital, right? So he goes, John Paul II goes to Fatima, and I'll just make another one of these. Type in John Paul II, type in Our Lady of Fatima crown in bullet, and you will see that Our Lady of Fatima's crown, under the cross at the top, there's an upside down bullet. But I want to make the prediction that nobody here is going to look it up on their phone or their computer or send it around to anybody. Yeah, okay, we got that. So he goes to Fatima the year after, almost being killed. And this guy, his name is Juan Maria Fernandez y Peron, K-R-O-H-N. The guy couldn't have a regular name like Weinberger. Anyway, Juan Maria Fernandez y Peron, he was a Society of Pius X traditional priest. And he had a knife, and he took the knife and he stabbed John Paul II here. Now, John Paul II was wearing a white cassock. And if you get stabbed here with a knife out in public, what are you going to do? Just have somebody there spill Kool-Aid on you? Just to pretend it's Kool-Aid? Oh, all this Kool-Aid. Oh. Like, I only heard about this about a year ago. This was 1982. And if you look up Juan Maria Fernandez y Peron, and you're not going to do that because you're never on your phone or your computer, right? Here's a picture of it. Looks like something out of downtown Dallas with Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby. The guy's still alive. So that was at Fatima. So Father Wolf did a series called Our Lady of Revelation. Our Lady of Revelation. It's 9 parts. A lot of them have part 1 and part 2. And here is the amazing thing. Here's the amazing thing. The message of Fatima had pretty much been just sealed up like Chernobyl. Remember Chernobyl, the nuclear reactor that blew up, and they just covered it up with cement because that's what you do when you don't know what you're doing. They just sealed up Fatima like Chernobyl. Chernobyl's actually a part of the book of Apocalypse, about all that contamination, that the air becomes polluted and all that. So they just covered up Fatima, and we're talking people who are really important in the church. We don't want no more Fatima. We don't want no more 3 kids. We don't want the secrets. We don't want none of that stuff. And like whack-a-mole, I've never played whack-a-mole, but like whack-a-mole, evidently if you hit over here, jumps up over here. Our Lady on April the 12th, 1947, a month away from the 30th anniversary, Our Lady pops up in Rome. She appears to this guy. His name is Bruno Cornaciola. He was, as a baby, he was baptized and made his first communion and was confirmed. Eventually got married in the church. This guy hated Catholics, and he married a Catholic woman, Yolanda, and he tried to get her to go with him to the Seventh-day Adventists. Bruno got married in the Catholic Church only because Yolanda insisted, and Yolanda was right. And Yolanda convinced. Bruno said, "Let's go join the Adventist Church." Yolanda said, "No, first you have to make your 9 First Fridays. You have to make your 9 First Fridays, go to confession, receive Holy Communion on 9 First Fridays in a row, 9 consecutive months." And she said, "If after that you still want me to go to the Adventists, I'll go with you." So after 9 months of the First Fridays, you'll never guess what Bruno said after 9 months. Ladies, you can imagine what he's saying. "Okay, let's go. Where are we going?" Adventist Church, right? After 9 First Fridays. So Bruno joined the Adventist Church because there was no church that hated Catholics more than the Adventist Church, Seventh-day Adventists. So Bruno got married, and they had 3 kids, which is interesting because Bruno ends up going to Spain and fighting in the Spanish Civil War. And he fought on the side of the communists against Franco. Now, Our Lady at Fatima appeared just before the October Revolution in Russia. What month did the Russian Revolution start? Anyone guess? November, because it was on the old calendar. You're pretty good, John. Stayed awake this time, good. Yeah. So the Russian Revolution, they call it the October Revolution, started in November because they're on the old calendar. Our Lady appears in Fatima in Portugal on the other side of the world from Russia, and she tells these 3 children, if what I'm asking, the message of peace, what I'm asking is not done, if you don't follow my request, Russia will spread her errors abroad. The children had never been to school. They were out in the middle of nowhere. They didn't know who Russia was. When they heard Russia will spread her errors abroad, they just thought that Russia was some woman who was wrong. They're like one of those people on The View. I don't understand The View. Everybody keeps calling the people on The View ladies. I would say they're women. Whether they're ladies, that's another thing. I think the jury's still out on that one. To be a lady, you have to kind of earn that title. So I'll get back on the road here. So Our Lady tells these 3 children her message of peace. John Paul II is called the Pope of Fatima, but he dropped the ball more than the Dallas Cowboys. He ends up getting shot, and then the next year he goes to Fatima in Thanksgiving. He gets stabbed in the heart with a knife by this Juan Maria Fernandez y Coron. Of course, he was very busy because the world was at the point that we are right now, where it was ready to destroy itself. So, last week on the 8th, Pope Leo was chosen to be the next Pope. A lot of you know Father Wolf, talked to Father Wolf, and Father Wolf and my friend Father Joe Wilson up in Brooklyn, they both say, we got a good one. Whatever you do, don't pray for Pope Leo. Whatever you do. See, I figure I'll just use some reverse psychology. Do not pray for the Pope. Or I should say, don't listen to these videos. Right? There you go, just use it. So, that was the 8th. That was the 8th of May. You'll never guess who was born on May the 9th, 1913. Anybody want to guess? Bruno was born on May the 9th, 1913. Bruno Fornacciola. The one Our Lady chose on April the 12th, 1947, to continue to speak about Fatima, but in Rome. And Bruno had gone with his 3 children. You'll never guess the age of the oldest of the 3 children he had. The oldest was 10. Oh, just like these kids, right? This is Rome, Italy. It's not Fatima, Portugal. Fatima, Portugal is in the middle of nowhere. Rome is called the center of the world, right? All roads lead to Rome. So Bruno is there on April the 12th, 1947, and he brought his tablet and his pen, and he's going to write a sermon against the Blessed Virgin Mary the next day. He's going to deliver it. He had his pencil with him, and there's a beautiful statue of Our Lady, and at the bottom it says, Virgin and Mother. And he took his pencil, and he put an X over Virgin and Mother, and he wrote, you are neither a virgin nor mother. And he went to this park right next to the church where St. Paul the Apostle was beheaded. And he sat down to write this talk, and he let his kids play out in this tree, this park full of trees and grass, while he was writing. Now his wife didn't come. You know his wife, he had a terrible wife, Yolanda. He beat her up the day before, and she used that as an excuse for not coming today. I mean, come on. Obviously she was weak. My mother was weak. I've never been in the hospital. The day I was born, it was a cesarean. And that was the only time I was in the hospital. It was because my mother was weak. We could have had that cesarean at home. So Yolanda was weak. She had been beaten up the night before by this thug, adulterer, wife beater, communist, who wanted to kill the Pope. He had bought, when he went to Spain, he had bought a knife and he carved on it, death to the Pope. He was going to use this knife to kill Pope Pius XII. So there he is, just writing out his Saturday sermon, because the Adventists go to church on Saturday. And all of a sudden he hears the kids are saying, you can't find the ball. So Dad gets up to go look for the ball. At this time, a lot of things happen all at the same time. Right next to where, right in this park, there was a cave about the size of the one at Lourdes in France. And probably as deep from here to there. Not very deep at all. And it was just an earthen kind of cave. And the kids are looking for the ball, and one of the kids walks over and kneels down in front of the cave and starts saying in Italian, beautiful lady, beautiful lady, beautiful lady. And then one by one, the other siblings come over and do the same thing. They're 10 and younger. And Bruno's this big guy, this big, strong father. By this time, he's 34. And he says, and they keep saying, beautiful lady, beautiful lady, beautiful lady. And he says, I don't like this game, stop this game. He told his daughter, he said, I don't like this game. He said, I don't know the game, what you're talking about. They kept saying, beautiful lady, beautiful lady. And so he thinks, maybe there's somebody in the cave, and like a witch, who is trying to steal my children. So he goes into the cave, which is dark. He said, who's in here? And I'll kill you. All of a sudden he sees a hand coming toward him, and the hand removes 2 scales from each eye, and she says, stop persecuting me. Stop persecuting me. This was Friday, May the 9th. This was last week. This is history, but it's recent history, okay? I don't care what I say. You're still not going to watch the videos, and you're still not going to look up the material, even if Nina sends you a link. And she will send you a link a day, at least 5 or 10 links a day. But anyway, that's another thing. On Friday at Mass, this is the Novus Ordo, we're reading the Acts of the Apostles. You'll never guess. On Friday, so the Acts of the Apostles, Saul, breathing out murderous threats, got his letter or permission from the Jewish authorities in Jerusalem to go to Damascus to round up some Christians and bring them back in chains to Jerusalem to have them prosecuted. And of course, as he's approaching Damascus, Jesus appears to him. Saul is blinded. Jesus says, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? His companions hear the voice, they don't see him. And for 3 days he's blinded. And on the 3rd day, Ananias, a Christian, is told to go and baptize him. And he does, and scales fall from his eye. That's Saul, who became St. Paul. In Rome, in 1947, Bruno has the equivalent happening to him on April 12, 1947. So on Bruno's birthday, Friday, May the 9th, was his birthday. We had to read the story of Saul becoming St. Paul. What Jesus did with Saul in Damascus, Our Lady does with Bruno in Rome. It was like a light switch. It's like a light switch with Saul, and it was like a light switch with Bruno. And Bruno is very obstinate, very difficult. Only the most obstinate, only the most difficult men get married. Oh, I'm sorry. I left out the other 2. Rocks are hard and water is wet. Okay, so Our Lady has a servant, a humble servant for the next 50 years. You know all the business about the miracle of the sun? No, you probably don't. No, you probably don't know about the miracle of the sun. I was talking to somebody here today who had just recently heard about the miracle of the sun at Fatima, where 70,000 people come to this pasture land in Portugal called Fatima, the peaceful cove, and the miracle is foretold 3 months in advance. And as Father Wolf points out, never in the history of the world, look in the Bible, you can find nothing like this. This miracle was predicted by Our Lady through the 3 children on July 13, 1917. So they could tell everybody, get out the message. So 70,000 men, women, and children went to that place, and the miracle would have been bigger, but in August 13th, the children were kidnapped, and that that took the numbers down just a little bit. But 70,000 men, women, and children, people who believed in God, people who did not believe in God, people with cameras, 70,000 priests, doctors, whatever. They came out and they all saw the same thing. It was raining all day long. People drove their cars or walked. But by the time you got there, you were wet to the bone and muddy. And the miracle happened. The sun started casting different colors across the ground. The people saw all of this after they had prayed the rosary. They saw, the children saw Our Lady with St. Joseph and holding the baby Jesus. That would be like Our Lady of Loretto, the Holy Family. There was Our Lady of Sorrows. There was Our Lady of Mount Carmel. There was Our Lady of the Rosary. The children are seeing these things while the other people are looking at the sun, and the sun starts spinning around, spinning around, spinning around, spinning around, and then like when you have your grandkids over at Christmas time, all of a sudden one of the Christmas ornaments at the top of the tree falls off. We can't figure out how that happened. It certainly wasn't one of your grandkids. The sun looks like it's falling to the ground, and everybody thinks that they're going to die. Then all of a sudden it goes right back up. When at the end of the miracle, the ground was totally dry. And I asked Father Wolf this question because Father Wolf has been there to Fatima. I was supposed to go in 2001, and I canceled on Our Lady of Fatima. I stayed in Spain instead. So at the end of the miracle, everybody is standing on dry ground. And it was really, really, really muddy. So I said, can you say that the people, their clothes were all dry? I said, can you also say that their clothes were clean? He said, by extension you can, but that wasn't noted. Now doesn't that sound like Mother's Day? Yeah, you gotta get out these wet clothes. And not just wet clothes, here, put on these dry, dirty clothes. Right? No, by extension, you can say that the miracle, another miracle of Fatima, not the miracle that everybody hears about, was that they were all dry, head to toe, all dry. The ground was all dry, and that they were clean. So a lot of the experts, God save us from experts. I'll try to do my Anthony Fauci voice. The experts on Fatima say that the angel who came a year before Our Lady appeared on this day in 1917 was St. Michael the Archangel, who was the angel of Portugal, the angel of peace. On October 13, 1884, the Pope was in Rome saying Mass, when during Mass he stopped saying Mass. This was October 13, 1884. The miracle of the sun, October 13, 1917. It's the same day, same month, but a different year. And he stops for about 7 minutes, and he sees a conversation between God and the devil and St. Michael the Archangel. After the Mass was concluded, he went and wrote the St. Michael the Archangel prayer. But I've got to warn you, do not listen to those 9 videos, because Father Wolf will say it in a much more coherent way than I am. So whatever you do, don't look at those 9 videos of Our Lady of Revelation. So he wrote the St. Michael prayer. That was October 13, 1884. Who was that? Was that Pope John Paul II? Yeah. Pope John Paul II was Pope on October 13, 1884. Pope Leo the 13th. The Pope Leo the 13th, and so that's how we got Leo the 14th. Because you can't say, oh, I'll be Leo the 9th. We know we already got. We got a Leo the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. There was a man who wrote a book on St. Michael the Archangel. And he's friends with Denise and Stephen Wood. A lot of you know them. And they brought this man to St. William for the first time. And he was in his 30s. This is before he wrote the book on St. Michael. And before communion, I mentioned, made the announcement about who could go to communion and a message for the kids. So after Mass, this man comes up to me and he said, you know, I've never heard anybody make that announcement before communion again. And he said, did you say those who are too dumb cannot receive communion? Never met this guy in my life. And I said, no. I did not say that. I said, those who are chewing gum may not. I said, if I had said the first one, you couldn't go to communion. Never saw him again. So, St. Michael the Archangel appeared in Italy. You know, Italy looks like a boot. At the back of the boot is a heel. If you start at the back of the heel and go up, now I've got the attention of all the women because I'm talking about shoes. Right? If you start at the bottom of the heel, you go up. The back of the boot, you come to what looks like a spur. Where the spur is, that's where Padre Pio lived and served and died. And that's also where St. Michael the Archangel, on May the 8th, the year 490, he blessed the cave of St. Michael. The only church in the entire world that was not blessed, consecrated by a bishop. St. Michael blessed it. So, 80 years ago, something happened in Europe that was so important. And it's so important because if it had not happened, I wouldn't be here, or you wouldn't be here, or most of us wouldn't be here. See, on May the 8th, the Nazis surrendered to the Allies. We were part of the Allies. So the Nazis surrendered on May the 8th. They chose St. Michael's Day on purpose. It's called VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. So there were lots of miracles on that day, but that was May the 8th, and that was last week. That was the day the Pope was elected, May the 8th. But I want to back up. May the 7th was the first day that they started the conclave, the voting. A miracle happened on May the 5th. Maybe you saw it was St. Peter's Basilica at night. And there was a rainstorm, and there were these 3 fingers of lightning. And if my head is St. Peter's dome, these 3 fingers of lightning come down and don't touch the basilica. That was a miracle on May the 5th. On May the 6th, nobody has ever noticed this miracle, but there were these 2 men on the roof of the Sistine Chapel. And in a matter of an hour or 2, they connected the chimney to the pipe coming out of the Sistine Chapel so that the next day they could start the conclave. You cannot get anything done in Italy in a matter of an hour or 2. And nobody here recognizes that as a miracle. Nobody. So on May the 7th, the first day of the conclave, the smoke goes up and it's black smoke, no Pope. So this is the divine office. Priests, bishops, cardinals, men and women religious have to read the divine office. This is the Novus Ordo divine office. There is the old office too of the TLM. But in the divine office for May the 7th, that's day 1, it talks about the smoke coming out of hell. The smoke coming out of hell. That's May the 7th. Here it is, right here. On Wednesday, it continues. Says, this is chapter 9 of the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation is also called the book of the Apocalypse. Revelation, Apocalypse. The whole Bible is called Revelation. But the last book of the Bible is called Revelation. So here it was, the day that the smoke came out of the chimney on day 1, the day we didn't get a pope. The 5th angel blew his trumpet, and I, John, saw a star fall from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss, hell. We know it today as Washington, D.C. He opened the abyss, and smoke poured out of the shaft, like smoke from an enormous furnace. The sun and the air were darkened by the smoke from the shaft. Out of the smoke onto the land came locusts as powerful as scorpions in their sting. The locusts were commanded to do no harm to the grass in the land, or to any plant or tree, but only to those men who had not the seal of God on their foreheads. You got the seal of God first on your foreheads the day you were baptized. The locusts were not allowed to kill, so the locusts didn't touch the people who were marked with the cross. But those who were not marked with the cross, the locusts were not allowed to kill them, but only to torture them for 5 months. The pain they inflicted was like that of a scorpion sting, and on it goes. So on the first day that we're looking for smoke, talks about someone with a key. When you think about someone with the key, you think of what Jesus said to St. Peter. To you I will give the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Friends, what I'm talking about here is amazing. The day that Pope Leo the 14th is elected is Thursday. That happened to be the feast of the founding, the blessing of the cave of St. Michael. It was also Our Lady of Pompeii, who is Our Lady of the Rosary. It also happens to be the feast of Our Lady of Divine Providence. It also happens to be the day that St. Therese of Lisieux made her first communion. It also happens to be the birthday of St. John Vianney, the patron saint of diocesan priests. And on it goes. On it goes. And nobody cares because it's not important, because if we're honest, we all know everything, right? I don't need no video. I don't need nobody telling me nothing. Yeah, okay. It must be terrible living with you. And I can see your wife. So on Sunday, Mother's Day, this is the programmed reading for the Office of Readings. A great sign appeared in the sky, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. Because she was with child, she wailed aloud in pain as she labored to give birth, and on about how the devil is trying to kill the woman and her child. She's ready to devour the child. The two banners here, this one is, of course, obviously, Our Lady of Fatima from Fatima in Portugal. And the other is of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Our Lady of Guadalupe was the first face that the Muslims saw on October 7th, 1571, the Battle of Lepanto, when the Catholic Christians were battling the Muslims off the coast of Greece, over 1,000 miles away from Rome. And the Pope had a vision, which would be, I guess, about the size of one of these mirrors. And it was as if the Pope in 1571 is watching a big screen TV of what's going on at Lepanto. And he's telling the cardinals and the bishops and the people of Rome what's happening. Like Howard Cosell, at Muhammad Ali fight. Weeks later, when the men came home, they all knew exactly, the people in Rome had already heard what happened. They were surprised. The Holy Father had a statue made. He said this was a great victory, so he called this Our Lady of Victory statue. I've got a beautiful 6-foot statue of Our Lady of Victory. Then he changed it and called it Our Lady of the Rosary, because he had asked everybody to pray the Rosary. The second bishop of Mexico, a Dominican, had the first copy of Our Lady of Guadalupe painted by a professional artist. He blessed it, touched it to the original, put it on a boat, sent it across the ocean to the Pope. And it met up with the Christian fleet just before they went to find the Muslims. And the man in charge, Don Juan of Asturias, put Our Lady of Guadalupe right at the front of the ship. Her face was the first face that the Muslims saw. Up until that point, everything was in favor of the Muslims. And from that moment, it all turned toward the Catholic Christian. So, Our Lady of Guadalupe is Our Lady of Victory. Our Lady of Guadalupe is Our Lady of the Rosary. And you can, if you look at a map of northern Italy, you've got the sea on this side, and you've got the Adriatic Sea on the other side. And so if you start at the Mediterranean here, you go a little bit and you come to this place, a church called San Stefano de Aveto. That first copy of Our Lady of Guadalupe is in a church, and you can easily find it on here, but you're not going to look it up because you never look at your phone or the computer or the TV. Okay? So if you start at the sea, a little bit in, you come to San Stefano de Aveto, and you look for the interior of the church, you see Our Lady of Guadalupe. You go a few miles in from there, you come to Turin, where you find the shroud of Turin, the burial cloth of Jesus on Good Friday. Then you continue all the way over to the other edge of Italy, and you find the Holy Face of Montepello. Now, here's the Holy Face of Jesus on Good Friday. That's Jesus' face on Good Friday. The Holy Face of Montepello is the face of Jesus on Easter Sunday. So, the Mediterranean Sea, San Stefano de Aveto, Turin, way over there, Montepello, and the face of Jesus on Easter Sunday. So, how easy is that to look up? The problem with Fatima is that the church, apparently, a lot of people, I can't say everybody, a lot of important people who were leading the church since 1917 up into and including today don't like Our Lady of Fatima. It's like when you're at someone's home and they serve you liver and onions. No, thank you. I'm vegetarian. I'm vegetarian tonight. I don't want liver. It's like, well, you like Our Lady of Fatima. I don't. No, they've closed the book on Our Lady of Fatima, and so she pops up in Rome with this wife-beater thug, communist, individual who wants to kill the Pope. And for the next 50 years, he's as gentle as a dove, converts like that, like Saul of Tarsus. And when the people come along who hate Our Lady or have all kinds of business about what he should and shouldn't do. When it comes to Our Lady, he defends her. Like they said, well, you know, I don't believe Our Lady of Fatima. You should have just stayed as a Seventh-day Adventist. Well, one of the messages of Our Lady of Revelation is that stop doing what you're doing with the Seventh-day Adventists and go back to your mother, the church, and the Pope is your authority. And Bruno used to say to bishops and cardinals, well, if I was okay being with the Seventh-day Adventists, why did the Blessed Mother tell me to go back to the Catholics? Yeah, he didn't. He always was respectful, but he pushed back. So Bruno had a lot of visions. But there were visions that he wrote down, and they only found them after his death. But here's the thing. Right in the heart of Rome is this church called Tre Fontane, like the three wells in Portugal, in where St. Paul was beheaded. The three springs came up. On numerous occasions, on May 13th and on other days, there would be television crews outside of the cave, outside of the church, and guess what they would see up in the sky? They would see the miracle of the sun, just as the three children saw it on May 13th, 1917. And it sounds so repetitive. It does sound repetitive. But they filmed it, they put it on the news, they put it in the newspaper, and people also like to say things like, well, you know, it's not an approved apparition. It's funny. When John Paul II, after John Paul II was shot by Muhammad Ali Ashka, and before he went to Fatima to give thanks to Our Lady, Bruno had one of his visions, and he wrote the Pope months before he went, if you go to Fatima, they're going to try to kill you there. And somebody said, yeah, the Pope got your letter, thank you very much, and all that. You know, when John Paul II got back from being stabbed in the heart on this day in 1982, like this, he said, from now on, we're calling Tre Fontane Our Lady of Revelation. And he put an altar outside of the cave. And then number 3, he assigned the Franciscans to care for the Church of Our Lady of Revelation. Our Lady of Revelation is all about the end of the world and the terrible things that are going to happen. If you listen to the videos, and you follow through with what Our Lady is asking, you have nothing to worry about. Our Lady actually says, either with, I don't think it was at Fatima, but I think it was at in Rome at Our Lady of Revelation. You know the bunkers that everybody's building and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, it was Our Lady of Revelation. She said, don't even try to hide in the bunkers. You're not going to be saved by the bunkers. Like that guy who was killed today, living in the basement of some hospital, who was in charge of that terrorist group over in the Middle East, that just got destroyed. She said, hide in the church. Hide in the church. In other words, the Catholic Church, your Catholic faith is your refuge. So, now for some very embarrassing things that I have to say to you and to myself and to my brother bishops. That's the bishop, I'll call him. Can't talk about it. Can't talk about it now. My brother's down. Okay. I've been going around for about a month now asking a lot of Catholics who know their faith one question. It's the same question. In the year 2000, we had a Jubilee year. Why did we have a Jubilee year? And usually the answer I get is, well, we were celebrating the new millennium. Like, yeah, that's true, the new millennium. Why do we have the Jubilee year 2000? It was to celebrate the 2000th anniversary of the birth of Christ. And you know who you never heard talk about that? Priests. Priests. Obviously, as a priest, and my brother priest, we just thought that was so basic. And it is so basic. However, when you don't listen to Father Wolf and the 9 videos, you're going to hear things like, well, Jesus was really born in 4 BC, and all that kind of stuff. So, right after Easter, I was watching a video of Michael Knowles, Michael Ann. He was interviewing a man who's a Protestant expert on the Shroud of Turin. And he ran it by NASA, and he wanted to find the exact month and the exact day of Easter, way back 2,000 years ago. April 5th, the year 33. April 5th, the year 33. So that means April 5th, 2033, we have the 2000, and of course, that comes along in about 20 years, right? About 20 years. Not even 10. All the women were agreeing with me. Anyway, 2033, April 5th, 2033 is not even 10 years from now. And nobody is getting ready for it. I believe that Our Lady of Guadalupe, almost nobody is getting ready right now for her 500th anniversary on December 12th, 2031. Just over a year later, we have April the 5th, 2033, and that's going to be the 2000th anniversary of Easter. And if you back it up 2 days, that's the 2000th anniversary of Good Friday. And if you cannot get people excited less than 10 years away from it, you know what you got? You got a good reading of the pulse of the faith. You got a good reading of the pulse. If that doesn't get you your blood racing, I don't know what will. So after Our Lady appeared at Fatima, she said, pray the rosary every day. Raise your hand after you're dead. You don't want anybody praying the rosary for you. Raise your hand. Look around. Look around. You don't want anybody praying the rosary for you. I was at a funeral in Waxahachie at a funeral home, Labor Day, last fall. 20 people my age or older. I never met these people. I asked that question. There were about 20 people there. 5 people raised their hand. It was not in church. 5 people raised their hand. It was interesting because the lady in the front row, her husband, their daughter, the mom raised her hand, her husband didn't, and the daughter didn't. And it was his father who was being buried. So if you want people to pray the rosary for you when you die, you need to start praying right now for all the people in your family who died. Don't worry about naming their names. God knows exactly. All the members of your family who died, but they're not yet in heaven. So that's number one. That's what she asked for. That's what she's asking us for. Connected to Our Lady of Fatima. I've got the book, Our Lady of Fatima, Fatima for Today, or Fatima para Hoy. At the back, there's some extra chapters. Chapter A, B, C, and D. Index A, B, C, and D. Index B mentions the 5 first Saturdays. So about a month ago, I'm talking to Father Wolf, and I'm mentioning the 9 first Fridays and the 5 first Saturdays. Then, if you look up 12 promises of the Sacred Heart, I know, 12 promises of the Sacred Heart. I know everybody is not going to do that, right? So do not look them up, right? 12 promises of the Sacred Heart for the 9 first Fridays. And number 12 says that when you die, you will not die without the sacraments. Now, say that your car is trapped in an accident you die instantaneously between an 18-wheeler and a cement truck, and you're just smashed, like, caught between the hammer and the anvil. Well, you can't get a priest in there. Jesus can. He can either go himself, or he could see Padre Pio or St. Charbel or somebody else. There's no time in eternity. Father Wolf says that both the 9 First Fridays and the 5 First Saturdays, eternal life insurance. Eternal life insurance. The 5 First Saturdays and the 9 First Fridays, they have to be consecutive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's consecutive. And when you finish number 9, start over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I saw a lady and her grandson's fiance yesterday. Never met him. I was having my tires rotated and balanced. And she said, oh yeah, I made my 9 First Fridays and my 5 First Saturdays. I said, well, you need to make them again. Oh no, I've already done that. The grandson's fiance just came into the church. And I'm saying, can you give me some help here? Right? Can you give me some help?
Exactly.
And I told her she needed to look him up. Our lady told Bruno the reason why I'll just stop. The reason Our Lady saved him was because Yolanda asked him to make the 9 First Fridays. But of course you already know that because you watched them. No, you didn't. So you need to start making the 9 First Fridays. If you can get your kids to make the 9 First Fridays at least once, according to Father Wolf, don't worry about them after that. And if they don't come back, they will come back at the very end. So this thing about all of us just think that when we die, we're going straight to heaven. You don't need to pray for me. Everybody here just didn't raise their hand because we want people to pray for us after we're dead. You pray the rosary every day for peace in the world. Pakistan, India, Iran, Israel, Russia, Ukraine, and so many others that we don't even know about. Make your 9 First Fridays, your 5 First Saturdays. To make your 9 First Fridays and your 5 First Saturdays, you got to go to confession. Going to confession. Let me show you here. I think I solved the puzzle. It's really hard these days to get a priest to hear confessions. April the 7th, please do not repeat what I'm about to tell you. April the 7th, 2002. No one is alive today who was alive in 2002. If you are, you must be very old. On April the 7th, 2002, St. John Paul II wrote a document on confession called Misericordia Dei, by the mercy of God. And I dare you. Did I mention I dare you? I dare you to talk about this with your priest. I am not mentioning the third session of the Council of Trent in the 1600s. I'm mentioning something that's not even 25 years old. So was it 23 years ago? That's just 6 years older than I am. 6 years younger than I am. So it says priests should make confession easy. Confession is the sacrament of divine mercy. That priests should hear confessions before Mass, after Mass, and when there's more than one priest during Mass. And all of you know who I'm talking to right now. And I can hear you. You're not going to say a word to your pastor. And I can hear what you're saying inside. Yo quiero Taco Bell. As they used to say in the Abbott and Costello movies, nobody here but us chickens. Okay, here's what the thing is. There is an attack on confession. When I was a kid, we went to confession it seemed like every Saturday. I think it was for my 2 sisters and my brother. I was always praying the rosary. In my lifetime, we went from this down to confession. It's always by this appointment only stuff. So it's really hard today to get priests to hear a confession. I've solved the puzzle. I solved the puzzle. Vanna, I'd like to solve the puzzle. Okay, this is a $100 bill. These are my first two fingers. Here's what you do. You go up to your priest and you say, Father, I just wish somebody could help me hear my confession. Why, yes, my child, right over here. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? Nobody knows it. Raise your hand if you don't need these 5 things. Okay? How many people do not want Jesus to make them stronger? Raise your hand. Smarter? Holier? How many of you don't want Jesus to walk into your heart? Number 5, how many people here do not want Jesus to take away their sin? Those 5 things you get every time you go to confession. True story. Must be 15 years ago. Talking to a 14-year-old. I'm trying to get him sold on confession. So I said, do you want God? You want Jesus to make you stronger? Yeah. Do you want Jesus to make you smarter? No answer. But you know me, I'm so patient. Do you want Jesus to make you smarter? No answer. So, of course, I use my really nice one. Do you want Jesus to make you smarter? Honest to God answer. Well, I'm already really smart. Yeah, 14 years old, can't put anything more in there. Oh! You know why your kids don't go to confession? They can't drive. You don't take them. And if you take them and your priest isn't hearing confessions, I think it was John Paul II who said, Lucy, we got a problem. That's not explaining to do. How are your kids going to go to confession if nobody's hearing confession? And your kids ought to be able to go to confession without making an appointment. Hi, this is my teenager, and he or she would like to go to confession, but they want you to see them first before they go in. Oh yeah, that's going to be a real quick confession. Very thorough, right? So, but if you're going to be a coward about this, see, anyway, going to confession monthly. I've never found a source for this, but I've heard all my life that John Paul II went to confession every day for over 30 years. Mother Teresa of Calcutta, the same thing. Every day for over 30 years. Well, that sounds crazy. Yeah, I've always thought of John Paul II and Mother Teresa as crazy. If you go once a month, people are going to look at you and say, ooh, right? Once a month. If you start going to confession once a month, 10 minutes after you're dead, you will be looking for my number to thank me. But you can't go to confession after you're dead. These are the things that Our Lady of Fatima and Our Lady of Revelation. Revelation is the book of the end times. If you listen to the first 2 videos, you'll get a good idea of the history. If you don't want to listen to the first 2 videos, skip to video number 9. Just listen to number 9. Just one video, number 9. And you will see how Father Wolf puts it all together. Our Lady of Fatima had the book closed on her. How many people here know that the last decades of the life of Sister Lucy, she was essentially a prisoner? A prisoner. Sister Agnes Sasagawa of Akita, Japan, essentially the same. She died in the last 12 months. There were priests who had known Sister Lucy in her early religious life and requested to speak to Sister Lucy, and they were told, well, someone upstairs won't let you talk to her. So Sister Lucy, the oldest of the 3 kids at Fatima, was essentially in solitary confinement the last decades of her life. And you know what most Catholics say when they hear that? Oh yeah, here. Because we've got this stuff down. Sister Lucy suffered and offered that. That's the whole message of Fatima. The sufferings that come your way, your aches and pains, the problems with people around you, your priest, me, other priests, bishops, popes, you can either offer it or waste it. And we waste it. I do. I waste it all the time. But these are the, St. Therese. St. Therese, on Saturday, will be 100 years since she was canonized. And nobody's going to do anything about it. Nobody's going to talk about it. One of the favorite saints in the world, she said that she was going to spend her time in heaven doing good upon earth. I've got 2 books under the table here. I'll put them up on the table. Come up with your phone and take a picture of the cover. One's in Spanish, one's in English. I've got the books on Fatima. You can get Fatima for today, but you can only get Fatima for today either in English or Spanish, or on Kindle or on Audible. The St. Therese books you have to get used, but nobody reads. But it's such a great book. It's a picture book on St. Therese. And St. Therese will help you to do these things that I've been talking about. What I'm talking about, she's talking about. It was Mother's Day on Sunday. And our mother wants us all, she wants all of her children around her in heaven the way you mothers want all your children around you on Mother's Day. And who cares? She's asking too much. She's giving us the way. I've left out so much.
Father, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Who's
Sorry,
here?
anybody but Olivia. Anybody else have a question?
So who's here with us today? They don't all know. Would you tell them?
Who's here? What?
Therese.
Oh, okay. All right. Where is she? She's moving around the first class relic of St. Therese. Who's got her? Okay, here we go. We got a first class relic here. Sorry, I thought somebody for the chancellor. No, we have a first class relic. Una reliquia de Santa Teresita de la Primera Clase. Yeah, so we have all of these things at our disposal, and we're not using any of them. We're not encouraging each other. We're not encouraging, spouses are not encouraging spouses. Parents are not encouraging their children. Children certainly are not encouraging their parents. Oh, please, mother, please, father, encourage us more. I remember being over Steve and Carolyn Donahue's house for dinner once, and we had the rosary right after that. And right after, well, as we're all getting ready for the rosary, they do the rosary every night. And Dominic walks through saying, "That's the problem with this family. We pray too much." Yeah, isn't that the problem with my family? We pray too much. Isn't that the problem with your family? We pray too much. Yeah, parents, I've got a flip phone. I've got a cover over my camera, but you need to take pictures of your kids, videos of your kids when they're saying things like, "That's the problem with our family. We pray too much." And then years later, you can say, do the yard mowed. But if you don't feel like mowing the yard, I can always put that up on Facebook. Oh, no, I'll mow the yard. Receiving Holy Communion. Receiving Holy Communion worthily. It's better to not receive Holy Communion than to receive Holy Communion irreverently. If you receive Holy Communion and you don't spend 15 minutes, that's how long Holy Communion stays with you. If you cannot spend the next 15 minutes talking to Him and listening to Him, don't go to communion. But how many times do you see people walk up to communion with chewing gum? Do you ever say anything to them? "Hey, Joe, you need to stay. Your gum? Huh? What?" People go up, and when you chew gum and you receive Holy Communion, some of your Holy Communion goes into your chewing gum, but of course you swallow all of your chewing gum. Yeah, right. We need to be on top of these things. We have St. Michael and Our Lady of Fatima and the saints trying to help us. So the things that have happened in just the last week are so monumental. I can't get my arms around them. But anyway, I've gone on too long, which is typical of me. But you need to do what you can to convince other people to start making the 9 First Fridays, the 5 First Saturdays. Make them make the argument to you why they should go to confession once a month. You can go 8 days before or 8 days after the first Friday or the first Saturday. But if you've got a mortal sin, or 10 or 15, you've got to go to confession before you go to communion. This is ridiculous. This is the favorite thing going around for the last 60, 70 years. Father, I need to go to confession before I go to communion. This is the anniversary of my mother's death, and I want to go to communion. The priest is putting on his vestments. Oh, I can't hear your confession. I'm getting ready for Mass. Mass starts in 10 minutes. Father, it's my mother's anniversary of her death. And here's what he'll tell you. Tell God you're sorry, go to communion, and then next week, go to confession. And all you have to say is, Father, where can I find that written down? But you know what you're going to say? What? Yo quiero Taco Bell. You're not going to say, Father, that's ridiculous. You can't. What you need to say to the priest is, Father, where's that written down? If you look in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, under mortal sin, it says 1 mortal sin, or 5, or 25. First go to confession, then go back to communion. But you're going to have that talk with your friend, or your spouse, or your cousin, or if you can, good luck. But these are the things getting you ready for either the apocalypse or your death, whichever comes first. But I'll close with this. I saw it in a movie in 2007. 10 out of 10 people died. 10 out of 10. I'm sorry, I just ruined it for you. That's hell. 10 out of 10 people died. So you've got to do what you can. Pray the rosary. Go to confession once a month, at least. Sometimes you ought to go more than once a month. That's up to you. You got to talk to your priest. You got to get them back to hearing confessions like they used to. Anyway, Our Lady of Fatima is dragging us, kicking and screaming across the finish line like she did Bruno. And mothers shouldn't have to fight their children to do the right thing. Our Lady of Fatima, pray for us. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Does anybody have a question about anything I've said, or want me to explain something? Yeah, it's like, no, it's been an hour, 20 minutes, that's 25 minutes, that's too much.
We just don't understand.
Oh, wait a minute, somebody asked me to start over. Just kidding. Yes, Debbie. Nina will send you the in the next day or two in her free time. Nina will send it to you in her free time. The first one, and I'll ask her to send you number 9 too. If you're not gonna, I ask everybody to listen to number 1 and number 2. It gives you all the history. But if you don't want to listen to 1 or 2, just listen to number 9. And Father Wolf, some of these talks were given in the presence of Sister Wilhelmina Lancaster at Gower, Missouri. Yeah, that Sister Wilhelmina. He did this in 2017, 2016 and 2017 to get ready for the centennial of Fatima. Okay. Again, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Nina, and everybody who prepared this. May God bless all of you.
There's a rosary every night at around 9:15, 9:20. 2020 at the White Rose in Dallas. And if anybody needs my phone number, please get it. It's in the invitation, but if you want to get my number, either get it from somebody or get it from me. I'd love to share more with you. I'm always sending messages. Forgive me if you're on my mailing list. But if Father presents something and thinks something's important, and I'd like to get it to you. Yes, and Our Lady of Revelation is an excellent series. You can listen to it over and over and over again, just like Father Ripperger, and just keep learning. It's beautiful.
Father Wolf has helped Father Witberger
Yes.
for decades.
Father said that they write books together. I think the last book that he wrote, the big thick book.
Dominion?
Yes, Dominion was written by Father Wolf and Father Ripperger. But of course, Father Ripperger is in the background. It's just Father Ripperger on, Father Wolf is on the background and Father Ripperger is on as the author. Yes. Great collaboration.